Today we are performing task 10. We're going to take Windows 7 and we're going to connect to Windows Server 2012, and we are also going to take Windows 7 and connect to Ubuntu Server. To do this, I've logged in as myself here, and we're going to go ahead and click on Windows Explorer, click on Network, click on Windows Server. Now, what we see here is that we set up this folder named Experiment as a shared folder early on. So this will be the folder that users 1 and users 2 will log themselves into Windows 7, access Windows Server 2012 in the same way, and attempt to create a document within the folder and then edit it. So to get that underway, as you can see now, there's nothing in it. We're going to delete what was in there because that was a test. So we'll go back, and now it's empty. So we'll exit out of that, and we want to change users. And we'll switch users, and that'll mean coming up here and going keyboard insert delete. And we'll use other user. We'll make this user number 1, user 1, and then password. Oops. Okay. This will take just a moment to open. Now we'll click down here on Windows Explorer. We'll click on our network. We see our Windows Server 2012 machine. We'll double click on that. We'll see our shared experiment folder that we created. We're going to open it, and we are going to create a text document for this folder as user number 1. Now we'll go ahead and create this and say experimental document for giggles for this purpose. Okay, now just to confirm, user number 1 is logged in. User number 1 did create this file called experimental document. Open it up. It's empty. We'll type in a little text just to test it to see if we have write permissions. So we'll type user 1 is in the house, and we'll save this. Okay, and then we'll exit out of it. Okay, so user number 1 has read, write, execute privileges. Now we need to switch users again and go to user number 2 to test user number 2's permissions out. So we'll go ahead and we'll log on user number 2, and we'll type in the password, and we'll go ahead and hit enter. Okay, you see we've got user number 2 logged in, and we've chosen Win Server, and when server 2 is up, here's our shared folder. As user number 2, we can get into this. We can also open this file named experimental document, and we can see what user 1 wrote earlier. Now let's see if user 2 is able to do the same. User 2 is also here. Now that is done, all we'll do is save this. Okay, it opens up. It's experimental dialog, wants us to save it. Tells us it already exists. We want to replace it. Yes, and we get the grand access denied. So access denied means that user number 2 has read privileges and execute privileges, but no write privileges. So we'll go ahead and we'll X out of this. We won't save it. There's no need to save it because user 2 can do nothing in it except read it. So now we want to go back to our desktop, and going to switch our user back um, to me. So let's go back and switch user again. And we'll use the input keyboard, Alt Control Delete. And we'll just put David Craig back in there. And my password. We'll log back into Windows 7. As you can see, it is me. From the desktop, we are going to use the putty software, which is a software interface that allows multiple platforms to communicate. In this particular instance, it's going to let Linux and Windows platforms communicate between Windows 7 and Ubuntu Server. So go ahead and double click on this, ask us to run. When it opens, we'll type in our IP address for Ubuntu Server. We'll click open. Brings us to a prompt. Ask us what we want to do. We want to log in as myself and password. Okay, great. Now we'll clear this so we back to the top. Now let's run an ls-l command. Okay. Now earlier, just like we had in Windows Server 22, you can see this folder was created earlier during testing. His name's Doinkestein. You can see that user number 3 is the owner of this folder, and user number 3 is the owner of the group attached to this folder that has read, write, execute privileges. So that means user number 3 can open the folder, it can create a new document file, just like in Windows Server 2012, can add text, can save that file, and it will be there. User 4 only has read and execute privileges, much like user 2 in Windows Server 2012, meaning that when he can access this file folder, open it up, and read any files in there, but he can't create any files. He has no write privileges. So we have successfully connected Windows 7 to Ubuntu Server, and we have looked at the folder, we've looked at the permissions, we've also gone from Windows 7 into Windows Server 2012, looked at the shared folder, both users, tested their permissions, they were as requested in the task assignment. That ends our task for now, and we will see you at task 11.